Prince, Michael Jackson, Madonna. Stay tuned to find out what my top 10 favorite albums of all time are, right here on another edition of Let's Talk About It. Hey people, welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About It. Again, I'm your host, Short Trini, and today I thought we'd have some fun. I'm going to give you my top 10 favorite albums of all time. These are albums I grew up with and still listen to today as an old man. Usually I put things in no particular order, but for this list, they're in a particular order. Number 10 on my list is Michael Jackson's Thriller. This album came out in the 80s, I believe 82, during the Michael Jackson frenzy. And aside from all the well-known hits, Wanna Be Starting Something and The Girl Is Mine, I like the songs that weren't necessarily hit singles. One of those songs is a song called Baby Be Mine. It's a great song. It's right after Wanna Be Starting Something. And I listened to that album growing up religiously. The album has also had a bittersweet to me because, in my opinion, it's the album that led to Michael's death. And here's why I say that. That album sold a gazillion copies. And it was one of the, I think at one time it was the best-selling album of all time. The Eagles, Hotel California took that over. But it still ranks up there as one of the best-selling albums of all time. And I think, in my opinion, that album, Michael always tried to top the success of that album. And because of that, all of his other albums suffered. They were always lacking. To me, every one of those albums that came afterwards were almost perfect except for one or two songs. But Thriller is a masterpiece, and I get a kick out of looking and listening to young people hear songs on that album, and they're like, wow, it is a masterpiece. A fun fact about that album: some of the songs on that album didn't make the album. And some of them that did make the album were edited. A song that comes to mind is Lady in My Life, The Lady in My Life. The original version of that song was longer. I think it was almost 7 minutes long. And it had an extra verse. But I think either Quincy and the record label couldn't agree on it, so Michael had done it over. And they cut it down to 3 or 4 minutes. But if you want to look for that original version of Lady in My Life, it's on YouTube, and it's a great version. It has one extra verse, and to me it gives the song more depth. But number 10 is Thriller from Michael Jackson, of my top 10 favorite albums. Number 9 is a live album, Bob Marley Live. This album came out, I believe, in the early 70s, and it was Bob at his best. I mean, it's one of the greatest live albums I've ever heard. The highlight for me is a live version of his classic, No Woman, No Cry. Man, when you hear this song, the live version of this song, you can hear the pain and the longing in Bob's voice. And I believe he had written it for Rita. I think they were separated at the time, and I think he wrote it for Rita. My followers and my subscribers, feel free to correct me on that, but I think that's why he wrote it. And for a time, Bob, even though he wrote it, gave credit to one of his friends who was down and out at the time. So Bob thought it'd be a great idea to, give him the royalties that came in for the song. So that's number 9, Bob Marley Live. Number 8 would be a record by the Beatles called Abbey Road. It contains, to me, one of the greatest B-sides. Yeah, B-sides. For all you people, when I was growing up, a record had an A-side and a record had a B-side. Don't have that anymore, because you either have CDs, you have MP3s. But anyhow, it's Abbey Road by the Beatles, and the B-side contains songs like George Harrison's Something and Here Comes the Sun. But why I like this B-side, there is a medley on this B-side that goes on for days. It's a combination of songs that run into one another. And the highlight is a drum solo by Ringo Starr, the drummer of the Beatles. And to me, it's one of the greatest drum solos I've ever heard. And I believe the song is called, that he does the B-side, that he does the drum solo on, is Carry That Weight. Great album, great B-side. And that's number 8, Abbey Road by the Beatles. Number 7 is a record that came out in the 70s. Show of hands, how many of you remember Teddy Pendergrass? Teddy was great. Teddy was a member of Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, and while he had success with them, he later on went solo, and he released a bunch of albums. Now, my parents were big Teddy Pendergrass fans. As a matter of fact, they were so much of a fan of his, they had 2 copies of each one of his albums. They had one for home, and they had a copy for the car. So everywhere we went, like we go to the beach, they'd pop in a copy of the album that they had at home in the car on the cassette tape. Yeah, it was a cassette tape. And this album, it's called Teddy. It had songs like, it had a song called Come Go With Me. And it was Teddy at his best. Basically, the premise of the song is, he meets this girl at a bar, and he's enamored by this girl, and he's telling her, come on and go with me, come on over to my place. For all of you guys who know Jaheim actually did a remake of this song. Now, Jaheim actually sounds like Teddy, but there will never be another Teddy Pendergrass. And that album, Teddy, is one of his greatest albums. Oh, and by the way, it also had the hit single, Turn Off the Lights. And I don't have to tell you about Turn Off the Lights, right? I really don't have to tell you about Turn Off the Lights. So, that was my number 7 choice for my top 10 favorite albums. Teddy Pendergrass's Teddy. Number 6 would be an album that got me through college. It's by Sting, and it's his first solo album, Dream of the Blue Turtles. It had songs like Fortress Around Your Heart and If You Love Someone, Set Them Free. I listened to that album so much. Man, my mom hated me. She hated me. She still hates me for that album. It's a collection of rock and roll, it's a collection of jazz, it's a collection of reggae, it's a collection of soul. The highlight of that album, a matter of fact, two highlights of that album, is a song called The Children's Crusade, and it talks about child labor. And it's a beautiful song, and it ends with this solo, this jazz fusion, and then it man, you just have to listen to it. It's number 6 of my all-time favorite albums, Dream of the Blue Turtles by Sting. Number 5 is an album by Whitney Houston called Whitney. I miss Whitney. I do. She will go down as one of the greatest voices of all time, and this album really showed her range. It had songs like So Emotional and For the Love of You, and songs like that. And to me, it showcased Whitney's range. It showcased how much she liked to have fun. That doesn't mean that she didn't have fun on her debut, but this album, Whitney, was where she got to spread her wings, and she got to stretch, and she sang, and it was fun. So I listen to that still to this day, and I miss Whitney so much. Rest in peace, Whitney. But that is my number 5 choice for my top 10 favorite albums of all time. Number 4 is by another legend that we lost a couple of years ago, and that would be Prince. Sign of the Times. Now, a funny story about Prince. I didn't like him as a kid. I really didn't. I thought he was nuts. I thought he was weird. As a matter of fact, I preferred him over Michael. I preferred Michael over him. Pardon me. Sorry. It's early. But it wasn't until I got to college where I hooked up with a couple of friends of mine. My best friend in college particularly. He was a Prince fanatic. And he played this album for me when we were in college. And I just lost it. And that album, to this day I listen to it. It has songs like the title cut, Sign of the Times, Play in the Sunshine, Hot Thing, You've Got the Look. My favorite cut on that album is a song called Starfish and Coffee. And for all of you that don't know, Starfish and Coffee is about a girl who has autism. And I applaud Prince for doing a song like that. As far as I know, he was the only one to do a song, or the first one I should say, to do a song about autism. And when you listen to the song, you don't get it at first. But then you realize, yeah, this chick has autism. And he made her feel good. He made her feel real. And it got me thinking about one of my goddaughters. Yeah. Enough said about that. But that is my number 4 choice for top 10 favorite. Prince, Sign of the Times. Moving on to number 3 is an album by Madonna. Yeah, Madonna. As I said before, in my household we listen to everything. To this day we listen to everything. So Madonna shouldn't be a weird choice. She has an album called Bedtime Stories, and it's another album where she stretched her range, and that's what I like about artists who aren't afraid to stretch to test their range and spread their wings. You have people like Michelle Ndegeocello on this album. The album consists of hip hop, soul, and other things that she tried, even some house music. Fun fact about this album: there's a song on this album that's called "I'd Rather Be Your Lover," and the album version features guitarist, musician Michelle Ndegeocello, and Madonna talks about, I could be this, I could be that, but at the end of the day, I'd rather be your lover. What people don't know is that track was originally recorded with Tupac, and again, that version is on YouTube. And the reason why it was taken off, do you remember when Tupac was arrested for rape? Well, Madonna's label didn't take too kindly about that, so they wouldn't release it with him on it. So Madonna had to delete his vocals and replace it with Michelle's vocals. So if you want to hear the original version of I'd Rather Be Your Lover, it's on YouTube with Tupac. That's a better version to me. My second top 10 favorite album of all time is Aliyah's last album. That's the one with Rock the Boat. That's the one with We Need a Resolution. Now, here's a funny story. When Aliyah first came on the scene, I really wasn't into her. And I thought she was okay. But I started dating this girl. And I started dating this girl. Her name is Adrian. As a matter of fact, she's one of my subscribers. And she loved Aliyah. To this day, she still loves Aliyah. And she was, she loved her so much, and me wanted to be the good boyfriend. I sent her Aliyah-related things. It was a long-distance relationship, but anyhow, that's another story for another day that you will not hear. But anyhow, I followed Aliyah after, during my dating my ex, and I grew to like her. I grew to love her. And this last album featured Rock the Boat and We Need a Resolution, and it blew me away. It really, really blew me away. Sadly, she's not here anymore, and I wish she was. Was she as good as Beyonce? Probably not. But at least she was real. She sang from the heart. And I dug her. I really dug her. And I thank you, Adrian, for introducing her to me. She is still in my record collection, all of her albums now. And I thank you, sweetheart. And that leaves number one. Now, number one is a strange choice. There's a band called Steely Dan, and they came out in the late 70s. And their music has been sampled a lot. Wyclef sampled them for a song called Uptown Baby. That blackout, ding, ding, ding. I didn't mean to sing, but that's what it is. With Peter Guns, they sampled that. And the sample is from a song called Black Cow, and it's by this group Steely Dan. That song came from an album called Asia, and Asia is a great album. It's a fusion album. You've got your jazz, you've got your rock, you've got everything known to every kind of genre under the sun on that album. The highlight for me on that album is the title track called Asia, because it starts out as a jazzy tune, then it goes into what we would call now world music, and then it ends up as a rock tune with jazz influences on it. And it's a great album. It's also the first album I bought with my own money. Yeah, I was about 8 or 9 years old, and I went to Sam Goody's. They're no longer around, but I went and got my album. That's during the days where albums came on wax. But Asia, that is my number one pick for my top 10 favorite album. Let me know yours. Let me know your thoughts on this. I want to know what your thoughts on this album, on these albums are, my choices are. And let me know what your choices are. All right? Until the next episode, I'm Short Trini. If you like what you see, if you like this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. Peace.